Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I wanted to go over a topic that so many of you guys requested, and this video is here now. I know it took a while, but a lot of you guys were asking what constitutes of an avoidant missing you when you guys have broken up. I know I have videos on missing in general, but a lot of times it's more like in a relationship connotation or perspective, to which it's not helpful if you guys are no longer in a relationship or broke up. And so I'm going to put both points in this video and I'll explain that in a little bit. But basically, there is a particular aspect that really helps avoidants to really understand why they miss you. And before I talk about that, I do want to talk about the different impacts of how each avoidant type kind of perceives breakups and missing a partner, okay? So with fearful avoidance, they actually feel the pain of a breakup typically a little sooner because they feel a little bit more familiar with those extreme or painful emotions. They may process it a little bit more obvious, I guess is the best way to put it, where they might reach out, but then afterwards they might not reply. It might be very back and forth from your perspective. What's happening is they're actually battling that emotion, whereas dismissive avoidance, they might not necessarily be battling it because it's not surfaced yet. They actually take longer to actually register the loss due to actually stronger emotional defenses and barriers regarding any sort of intense emotion. And when missing is an intense emotion, but avoidance can do this with any emotion. So it's not particular to you. I don't want you to think it means they don't miss you. They do this with every emotion they have, honestly. Very practiced, okay? So what is the truth that makes them realize that they're actually missing you, okay? It basically is that they realize they liked themselves and their life better with you in it. That's the main way for an avoidant to really recognize that they miss you, while also wanting to reconnect with you, right? Because I think a lot of people, when you guys are watching this video, you just don't want to know if they miss you just for the sake of it. Usually it's because you want some sort of reconnection, which is why I'm aiming it in that direction today, okay? So how can we create this dynamic for them to recognize that their life was healthier and safer and overall more beneficial to them when y'all are already broken up, and also that dynamic before the breakup occurs so that you don't have to break up, okay? We're going to break it up in two spots and then I'm going to summarize, okay? So if you guys have already broken up, how can we help an avoidant to realize what they have lost in hopes that you guys can reconcile, okay? The very first one is actually you being comfortable being yourself after the breakup, when it's happening, including admitting you want to reconcile if that's where you're at. This doesn't mean you have to tell them multiple times. I'm not saying to beg unless you want to. I'm just saying by being yourself, this translates as a form of confidence. Actually, a lot of secure people do this, but just in general, a lot of anxious, preoccupied folks and fearful avoidance, but a lot of anxious, preoccupied, they're really uncomfortable being in the situation where they could be the one potentially being abandoned. And so they may avoid that even if they really do want to reconcile. A lot of anxious, preoccupied individuals are uncomfortable being the one that seems like they like their partner more. When in actuality, you don't like your partner more, you guys just communicate in different ways, right? We can't really measure who likes who better. That's just, I don't even think that makes any sense. And it's not worth it, I feel like. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's worth it. And so oftentimes what ends up happening is you probably want to reconcile quicker than your partner, and you might be embarrassed about that. Admit that to yourself, admit that to them, even while the break was happening. Admit, I don't really want this to happen. I understand that you do. I wish that we could get on the same page, right? Even if they need space from that, and you guys can have a conversation about that later, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Being yourself and admitting who you are is going to help them appreciate you. They can't appreciate something if it's behind a wall. The next one is admit where you went wrong and accept that out loud to them if possible. If you did mistakes in the relationship, made mistakes, which all of us make mistakes, like everybody does, any mistake at all, you can admit that out loud and admit that that could have been part of the reason the breakup occurred, because a lot of times avoidants feel much more willing to reach out or appreciate the relationship more when they realize they get a say in it too. The next one is actually for you to process grieving on your own terms. This can mean processing it quicker than your partner. The reason why this can help is because it actually shows that, actually, interesting enough, that you are comfortable showing your emotions. And a lot of avoidant individuals, they are not comfortable with showing their emotions. However, they wish that they could be to some extent. I know a lot of people do not believe this is true, but a lot of avoidants do honestly wish that they could process those feelings. They could feel it because they actually, the feeling of avoiding emotions is it's a very annoying and very heavy feeling. I don't even know how to explain it unless you've been there. It's like to me, it feels like the feeling where like you're behind like a glass wall and you're like shouting and the words are like muffled, but like you kind of can't make out what they are. That probably didn't make sense, but that's what it feels like when an avoidant has an intense feeling, but they don't know what to do with it. They're going to do something, but it's not the right thing. It's not fitting perfectly. It's like trying to put a block in a hole that's not fitting properly. It's very confusing. Whereas you can cleanly process your feeling and it fits perfectly, right? And so the reason why this can help is because avoidants can actually see that you have a characteristic that they want to learn from and you have that. And so by you having access to information they don't have, it actually might help them to want to learn how to do that as well. And you processing your emotions on your own terms, even if it means you crying, even if it means you communicating, I wish this wasn't over, but I do understand, whatever is natural to you, while trying not to be too overwhelming, of course, but you still want to be yourself. If it comes across overwhelming, that's fine, as long as it's not to the point where it's maladaptive or harmful to you. I don't want it to be like you're crying so much it's hard to breathe. However, by you processing your own terms, your own feelings, even if it's in front of them or even it's social media and you're saying like, whatever it is, maybe you're posting a sad, whatever you guys want to do, I don't really care. Allowing yourself to be yourself helps them to know you are still a person that's human. You're not ashamed of who you are. Because avoidance, if you're playing a game or you're pretending like you don't have feelings, they know that you care. Like they do know. They've been with you. You guys broke up. Like it was a relationship. So they're not going to, if you're pretending like you don't care, they know that's not authentic. That's going to make them feel like you're playing games. You being yourself is a lot more appreciative. They might even reach out and say, I just wanted to check how you've been doing. And you can say, it's been hard. I appreciate you reaching out, but I'm trying my best. You have to be honest. That's really important, okay? And the next part is if you and your partner are still in some sort of low contact and it happened that you guys broke up because of a fight, why not you introduce a compromise? I'll give an example. Maybe you can say something like, I wanted to reach out to check on you. I know we fought over labeling the relationship. While it's something I want, I also know I pushed too hard. I want to put that behind us and focus on being present together. What's your perspective? Okay. So the compromise is actually that you're saying, I'm okay with us not having a relationship with a label, but I also am not really comfortable with us not being together. Why not? Like, how would you feel if we get back together? You're not saying this directly, but that's kind of where the aim is, right? You want to get back together, but we won't talk about labeling yet. But of course, you, in the back of your mind, you're thinking maybe they just need some time. Maybe we can label it later. This is dependent on the relationship. I don't want you to be in a situation where somebody doesn't want you or doesn't like you and they're not labeling the relationship because they don't like you. I'm talking about an actual real person who is like a real dismissive avoidant or fearful, leaning dismissive, who actually is giving you pretty much a relationship. They're just not labeling it. I'm not saying for you to do this for someone who's not giving you anything at all, okay? Because a lot of times with relationships, dismissive avoidance and fearful avoidance, it's basically a relationship. They just don't like the label. But if you're actually getting overall a relationship, then I think that might be a little bit more appropriate to compromise on, okay? And now if you guys are together, what can you do to kind of constitute the concept of them missing you or realizing your value without having to lose you entirely, okay? Sometimes what can help is when you describe the relationship between y'all, you want to describe the tangible benefits that are attached to it, not necessarily in a romantic way. I'll give an example because I know that's confusing. You might say something like, I appreciate that we have the same political views, and I'm grateful for that. So you're not saying, oh, I'm so happy we're together, I can't wait to get married. Maybe you feel that way, which is great, and you can say that sometimes, but by saying, I appreciate that we have the same political views, I'm grateful for that, you're saying it's very tangible, it's very beneficial for both of us to communicate with somebody who's on the same page. We get benefits off of this. It would be much more difficult if we were trying to make a relationship that constitutes of two people who have different political views, right? That's kind of the concept. And they can see, oh, you're right, this is a beneficial relationship, okay? The next one is making compromises in areas that give both of you guys a potential to grow, okay? Maybe they don't like celebrating holidays. A lot of avoidants don't like holidays. It's very pressuring. They don't like making a big thing out of things, so that's part of it too. But maybe you like holidays. And so what you can do is maybe to take the pressure off the holiday, you can make a small holiday-inspired date on a different day. That might be an example where you both compromise. So they still have to celebrate that holiday, just maybe it's not that particular day. Because a lot of avoidants, I don't know if you guys know this, a lot of times they don't like spending holidays with anybody. Not every avoidant is like this, okay? But for example, Thanksgiving is coming up. A lot of patients who are dismissive avoidant will say, I don't want to do anything. I just want to take that day off, decompress, and do whatever I need to do, right? They don't want to do anything. It's like their time to just be alone. Sometimes avoidants feel that way. And so what you can do is maybe that Sunday or that Saturday or maybe the week before, you guys can do a little inspired date that has to do with Thanksgiving. Maybe you guys cook together, something like that. So it's still compromising because you're getting some of that holiday and they're getting more comfortable with that, but it's also where they can still decompress on that day off, because sometimes it has to do with their work schedule, like they just want that day off, which is why a lot of them do that. And so you guys are both able to grow. The next one is share knowledge together. Maybe you have knowledge about real estate and they have knowledge in stocks. You guys can communicate and share that knowledge and learn from one another. It helps them to realize that you can bring something to them that they didn't realize they were lacking, or they didn't realize that that's something they want. And the last one is do activities together that don't always include intense verbal exchanges, okay? We just talked about cooking together. That's a really good one. Playing basketball together, playing video games together, doing something together that's not necessarily full on communicative. You can still communicate, but it's just not the main vehicle of that transaction, that connection, okay? So I'm going to try and summarize it. It's a little bit, I'll try and summarize it, okay? And so let's go ahead and summarize it. If you guys are broken up, some ways to help an avoidant realize your value to them is being comfortable in who you are, including admitting wanting to reconcile. The next one is admitting when anything you did wrong, and admit it out loud. Take accountability if possible. Process grief on your own terms. If you and your partner are still in low contact, you want to reach out and introduce a low pressure compromise. And if you guys are together, what you can do is describe the relationship in a tangible way. The next one is make compromises that give both of you guys an area of growth. The third one is share common knowledge together. And the last one is actually doing activities that don't have intense verbal exchanges. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.